Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Aleesha,
And I'm Danielle.
and this is the She's of STEM.
The Shoes of STEM, as you know, is a podcast series that will be discussing women in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We're going to be discussing women's issues, current events, and how they pertain to STEM, as well as how we can change the scientific culture and the people who are already doing it.
Yep, and today's episode, we're going to be discussing the wage gap between men and women.
Bum, bum, bum.
It's a bit of a touchy subject. I don't think a lot of people want to acknowledge it, or people just feel uncomfortable talking about it. But it's 2018, guys, and
Get it
gender
together.
pay gap shouldn't be an actual thing. In the UK, so I'll say statistics for the UK since I'm from there and you'll do the US. But in the UK, men actually earn 18.4% more than the average woman. I know, it's terrible.
It's okay. And then I looked up in the US and I was like, well, maybe we're better. And we're not. The US, the average gender wage gap is women earn 21% less than men. But it does range from state to state. So I was like, okay, maybe this will be better.
Yeah.
So it can go as low as 10%. So women earn 10% less than men, which is good. I mean, not good, but it's a lot better than 20.
Yeah, it's better. It's better than the 18 as well.
But it can go as high as 35%.
Oh, that is. And for the same amount of work, for the same hours, and for the same job, I'm like, why?
What?
Why? How?
Yeah.
So we're just gonna get into that. We're just gonna give you a bit of a background why it happens and maybe give you some tips on how you can address the issue if you think that it's happening to you, or how to prevent it from happening in the first place.
Which is good because literally all the stuff that we're about to talk about, I had no idea about because if I'm not looking up the information myself, no one else is telling me about it.
No, yeah. It's not like it's on a billboard or something, yeah. So we have to remember, first thing of all, is the gender pay gap is different to the Equal Pay Act, which in the UK was established in 1970, which means it's actually illegal to pay people differently on the basis of their gender, race, or even their sexuality.
Good.
So, but it just means that in a company, so if you look at an average company, the men are in the high positions and they actually, it's the role name that are different, if you get what I'm saying. So their day-to-day tasks between men and women are basically the same. It's just because they put a fancy like CFOO, or they spice it up a bit. So that's why
spice it up a bit.
So that's why it seems like they're actually in a higher position, when in reality they're not. So in reality, both men and female do the same job. They put in the same amount of hours, but at the end of it, the men actually get paid more, and that's why it's a pretty complex issue. It goes deeper than just like it's the same role and the boss just pays the man more and they pay the woman less.
It's getting sneakier and trickier.
It's and I think it's like that from the start. So if we think about very traditional roles, it was usually the women who looked after families, and women usually take the part-time roles, and there's actually a divide in the labor market. That just basically means that women are more likely to get into the lower paid and lower skilled job. And there's actually a statistic where women make up 62% of those earning less than living wage.
Wow.
So it gets more deeper into that. So it's just basically women don't, first of all, go for those jobs that are higher paid and just more, they earn more. So that's a reason why they earn less as well.
Right.
On top of the fact that even in a company, even if the woman does more work, she doesn't get paid the same amount.
And even worse if you're a person of color or
100%. If
a
you put
different
in,
minority.
yeah. So if you put in a person of color, they get even paid more. So there's a white woman, she gets paid less than the average man. But then there's a person of color that's a woman, she gets paid even less. So it's like, I don't even know what it's like. It's just
I don't even know what it's like. I don't even
it's just
like. There's just not words for the
no,
how
no.
unfair and stupid and like why that like why does that even exist? I just
Yes.
I just don't understand it.
And
Like I can't wrap my head around the concept of like treating anyone less than a human.
yeah, so it's not
Just
really
in
based,
general.
no, it's not really based on your what skills you have and what you can do for the company, rather than,
That you
I
bring
guess,
to
your
the
race,
table.
yeah, or your gender. And it's a thing
Mm-hmm.
where I guess a lot of women don't. Have you heard that thing where if a job has these requirements and a woman doesn't fit all these, she's likely to not just go for the job.
Oh yeah.
Whereas if the same job and the guy has the same amount of abilities as the woman, he'll still go for the job. So he'll still pursue it, and he'll
Mm-hmm.
just, in his mind, he'll just over exaggerate or overcompensate for what he has.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about mindset and just how, I guess, just how you think. And if, I think a lot of women don't even think that they can go for certain jobs, just how the system works. And it is a lot, it goes, yeah, as I said before, it gets a lot deeper into that. All statistics
Right.
I've said are from the BBC, if you want to confirm them. In the US, women take home only 82.9 cents for every dollar earned by a man, and it's the same thing all around the globe. So it's not just in the UK, in America. It's it's a problem all around the world. Even though women make up 50% of the population. Like, I'm Pakistani as well, so I
Mm-hmm.
always like to look into Pakistan and what the state is.
Mm-hmm.
And Pakistan and the wage gap is horrific. Pakistan actually held the second to last spot on the global gender gap index
Jeez.
5 years in a row. And
Jeez.
even though women make 49% of the population, they only account to 24% of the workforce. So again, it's like the more statistics I'm reading, the more like it's just it gets. And
Right.
education isn't just a solution for it. It's not like the more educated you are, the more skilled you are, the more highly
Yeah.
paid. It affects everyone. It affects the working class. It affects middle. It affects everyone, like
Mm-hmm.
from different stages. Obviously, it affects them on a different kind of level and to a different extent.
Yeah.
The matter is, it still affects them. And so I feel like we should, now that we know there is an issue, we should take action and be like, okay, what can we do
Mm-hmm.
to stop it? So what can we do to make the wage as minimum as possible and not to be affected by it? So it's actually looking up ways why and to make sure that you're not earning less. And I think the first thing is you need to be transparent about what you earn.
Yeah, completely.
It's awkward asking anyone, what do you earn? Or hey,
Mm-hmm.
I earn X amount of money. But you need to, especially your co-workers, the people you're around, and you need to ask them actually what they do, what their tasks are. And if you're earning less, you need to question why you're earning less, and
Right.
if there's a specific reason.
But finding out, it's even like finding out if you're learning less. So
Yeah,
you mentioned that it is kind of a touchy subject because, like, yeah, I didn't know about the UK, but the US, it's super taboo to talk
yeah,
about money. And I personally don't like that.
I
because
wonder why it's like that. I feel like someone must have, a boss somewhere must have like been like, do not say
I mean,
what
it's
you earn.
definitely on purpose,
Yeah,
right?
because
To
it's
keep the
so weird.
people.
Yeah. So if I don't know what the person next to me is earning,
Hmm.
obviously if I'm earning less, I would be so oblivious about it. I wouldn't.
Right, because you don't know.
Yeah, and I feel like I feel like it's been done on purpose because I don't feel like it's rude or it's a touchy subject if you're asking your coworker or if you're just having a general discussion about what you earn. It's one other thing if you like put someone down or if it's like
Right.
a party or something and you're like, I earn this amount. And like, oh, you, yeah, but if it's your coworker, if it's someone that you see all the time, and if it's someone
Yeah.
in the office, I feel like it shouldn't be uncomfortable
It shouldn't,
to
and
talk
it
about.
is, and it's definitely like something that you learn from a young age, because I've always been taught like, oh, you don't mention to other
Yeah,
people like what you make. You don't mention that. It's rude, it's mean, because either one, you don't want to brag, or two, you don't want to make someone feel bad, or
yeah, just feel
three,
little about themselves. Yeah,
you don't want to feel bad about yourself, so you don't ask.
yeah,
But whenever I bring it up, like I do get nervous because I don't want to offend anyone and ask them like a too personal of question. But if someone asks me, I'm super, super truthful about it, because like
yeah.
I like money is just money. It's
Especially if you're in the same workplace, I feel like
right.
you work. It's like a ladder, so you can work towards that. It's not like, I think it's different if it's in a workplace than if it's a friend who's in a completely different field and
Yeah.
you have nothing
It
in
has to be
common work wise.
comparable.
Yeah, so how would you, I was thinking, how would you even go about asking? Would you just, I guess, mention it in general conversation, like, and who would
From
you ask as well?
So I was kind of looking back. So when I used to work for the Navy,
Yeah.
I had 5 other friends who were working for the Navy. They were at the same exact company as I was, but they were in a different branch. All of them were in different branches. Um, and they were in a different area. So I was the one who moved down to San Diego, and they were all in like the Riverside area. And so it's it's funny because but we all had the same work experience, and we all had the same education experience going in, because we all graduated at the same time together.
Yeah.
So I felt really uncomfortable. I didn't really want to ask, but like I had one of my pay stubs out,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, "Hey, can someone explain this to me, because like I didn't understand something that was on it." So I gave it to them. So it was one of those things where it was like, "Oh, we are making the same amount of money."
Oh, okay, so it was kind of by accident, but
It was kind of by accident, but I it was true that I didn't understand it, but the secondary reason that I wanted them to see it was to see like if I was making less money than them. And so I was not making less money than them as our base salary, but I was making less money because of where we lived. So, because you make more or less money based off of your locality as well. And so if you're in
mm.
like a poorer neighborhood, or in a poorer, or where like the cost of living isn't as much, your locality cost for how much you get paid is a lot lower. And so if you live in like LA is more expensive to live in than San Diego. But because they were in Riverside, they were part of LA
Yeah,
County, they got more in that kind of sense. So it's not even just like a gender thing. It's not even
yeah.
just a minority thing. It's a location based thing too. But
At least you
location
know.
is usually based off of your gender, your minority status, your economic status, and things like that too. So I mean, it all ties in together.
Yeah, and at least you know and you're aware that you earn less based on location because
But
even
it's
that's
still
super important.
kind of weird. Like I feel weird about it, but it also makes sense. I honestly
Yeah,
didn't
it
really know how to
because
feel.
for the same job, for instance, if I, because I was looking at graduate schemes, if I
Mhm.
lived in London, because I'm from Manchester, if I lived in London, I'd get paid more.
Mhm.
And I just assumed it was because the cost of living in London, like the rent's higher, even the food's more expensive
Yeah, yeah.
than in comparison to the rest of England. So that's why I didn't think, I don't know, I didn't think if it was a big deal. I don't know, because I was just like, it's more expensive to live there. So at the end of the day, we might be earning the same amount because they're just spending more on rent and
Right.
food and da 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 da.
Right.
But it's something to think about though. So it's something
Yeah.
to take into consideration when you're applying for a job or when you're asking your coworkers about their job,
Mm-hmm.
and
You have
just
to
to
take into
factor it
like where
in.
they're working. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's another thing is like you have to compare apples to apples, you know, in
yeah,
order to really see like where that is and where it's coming from and where their salary is coming from and how it's comparable to your own.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And there's this pretty cool that I wanted to talk about tech
Mm-hmm.
company in New York called Sumall. And what it actually does is, and I feel like hopefully this is the future, so more companies would adhere to this like kind of thing where it's like they have an online document so
Mm-hmm.
employees can view the salaries and pay histories of all their colleagues. And it's the fact that they actually look at if they they've increased and why they've increased and based off what credentials as well. um I feel like for some people that might be just like, oh my god, my salary's out, everyone's salary's out, like it's just,
Right. Oh, it's my personal information.
yeah. But I
Guess
feel
what?
like
Your personal information's everywhere.
that is true. But I feel like even like if a boss promoted someone, everyone would know, and hopefully it
Yeah.
wouldn't be biased or it wouldn't be based off his own like preassumptions about that person, and
Yeah.
hopefully it'd be based on skill rather than favoritism or anything else. So I feel like everything would be brought to light.
Yes.
So it would make people uncomfortable, obviously, but I feel like in the long run it's better because your pay would be based on productivity and achievements. A lot of people actually threaten to leave if they don't get a raise, or stuff like that happens as
Yeah.
well, where they're like, oh, this company wants us for this amount. If you don't pay me this, I'm leaving. So all of that would be brought to light.
Mm-hmm.
So it would just, I think it's a process to make it like common everywhere. But I feel like in the long run, it would be better for both the employees and the company as well.
Right. And I would have loved to see that, like just to know what my colleagues are making, what the people in the next cubicle are making. Um, because it would make me like more likely to negotiate a pay raise and a higher starting salary if I knew what everyone else was getting paid.
Yeah.
Because if like this is the base, right? Like this is what you have to, this is what you make, and this is what you have to have. But if I have more skill, if I have more experience, then I'm going to ask for that pay raise. But I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if I have more skill. I don't know if I have more experience if I don't know where the baseline is. So like if I wanted, you know, to make X amount of money, it would be okay, then I need to get this experience in order to get that X amount of money at this company. Or if I'm already in that company, perspective on like where I need to be and where I am on the scale. So it would make me work harder to be like, okay, if I really want to make 1,000 extra bucks or whatever, then I need to get on a second project, or I need to make sure that I make my presentation skills better, or just like
Yeah, definitely. So yeah,
if it's like you're getting kind of graded on this, but your grade is like money or whatever, it would make me work harder. And I know that's probably not true for everyone, but at least it would like give the exposure to be like, hey, wait, I can do that. How come I'm not there?
yeah,
Because it could have been something that I didn't bring up.
yeah.
Maybe the company doesn't know I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So just, I think it, like you said, it brings exposure, it puts everything to light, and it makes you more aware of like what you have to do as a employee as well.
Definitely. And that actually brings me very nicely into my second point.
You're welcome.
Don't be afraid to debate your age. Just because you're given this amount of money doesn't mean that you should settle for it.
Hmm.
Studies actually show that women negotiate their wage much less than men. And one study found out that 7% of the female graduates, negotiate their salary in comparison to 57% of the males graduates.
Insane.
That's 8 times as more many men asking for their money. And I guess it's just a lot of times. So, for instance, if I'm talking from my perspective,
Hmm.
I'd be happy to get a job, in this climate and everything. I'm just like, oh, I have to. You don't think to ask for a raise, and you think that what if I come across as too aggressive, or what if I rub off badly on someone? Because I guess in a way, women are like maybe people pleasers, or you're just like you care more about
More empathy. Yeah.
yeah. Whereas with men, I feel like they're saying, "Oh, it's just normal if they think that they deserve more, they ask more." But it should be more common in
Well, it's just one of
female.
those things that it goes back to, like, the way that society perceives women and the way that they perceive men, and then the way that we're bred, the way that we are taught, and the way that we're grown up is like men are usually taught. I mean, obviously, the lines are getting very blurred nowadays, but men are usually taught that you do this, and women are taught that you do this. And they're two completely different things. And it goes back to like our confidence levels, the way we view ourselves, the way we have our appearances. There's also, certain biological things that make women act more of a certain way and make men act more of a certain way. And it's like all of those reasons. And so we're talking about the wage gap and like how we can change that. But the negotiation or the talking about money, it's all about like how we were brought up and
Yeah,
like why we perceive ourselves in this way. So like women are asking for 7% less more money, or only 7% are
7%
asking
asking. Yeah,
for more money. Well, that probably goes back to like, well, they weren't taught that they were worth as much, or
yeah,
they're just ready to get a job. They just want to be part of a workforce. They want to be a productive member of society. They want to be the ones in there helping. They might be going into jobs for different reasons than men are. I'm not a man, so I can't tell you from a man's perspective like why I would not go into the
yeah.
workforce. But like I never negotiated for my salary. In fact, I
No.
was paid, my starting salary was more than I even thought I could make. So
Yeah, it's the fact that I'm just grateful to even
have a job. And that
even
there's definitely people of all backgrounds and of all genders that feel that way, but it's like the majority. Like what
yeah,
is happening with the majority? So you're
yeah,
going to talk about a
definitely.
study. I'm sorry I interrupted.
Oh, no, no, no. I don't even know what I think I already talked about the study, wasn't it? Oh, yeah. So I think it's just because another Harvard study just found out that women are perceived as more demanding and less likable than men when they
Yes,
ask for
yes.
more. So if
That's
it's like
true.
a woman boss, she seems really bitchy. If it's a guy, he seems really like
Bossy and in
put together.
charge.
Yeah,
Not
in charge.
bossy.
He's
The
really in
boss.
control. He knows what he's on about. So it's that
Hmm.
thing where it's two-sided. So it's like if a woman does ask for something or ask for what she deserves,
Yeah.
she's just perceived in a different light. And
Right.
I think and even though it might be awkward, even though there is that thing where you might get rejected, at least you tried, and at least you put it out there that you know that your skills are worth more and your
Hmm.
time is worth more. A really cool example I wanted to give was Amy Schumer. She actually negotiated her money. So basically, Amy Schumer was contacted by Netflix
Hmm.
and for a special. Same with Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock. but what she was offered, I think was like 10 million less or something like that. Quite a bit less.
A lot of money.
Quite a bit less than both Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle.
Mm-hmm.
And when she found out about this, when she found about how much they're getting in comparison to her, she was like, wait, I'm selling out stadiums, I'm making all these movies, I've done this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I should be getting more, especially if they're getting that much.
Right.
Especially if it's for the same thing. They're all making like a Netflix special.
Mm-hmm.
So she demanded it, and her the amount she was going to get did increase. So they did, in the end, offer her more.
Yeah.
But if she just settled for it, or if she didn't know what the others were getting,
Mm-hmm.
she would have just gotten the first offer.
Right.
Just by looking at that, it's so important to question what you're getting and to ask for more, especially if you've got the credentials to back it up, like
Right.
she did.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no reason why. It's not like you're stealing from them, or it's not like you're doing anyone a disservice except for yourself. So
Right.
that's why it's important to know what you're worth and go for it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I think part of that is also like figuring out, how do you know what you're worth? And
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Same here. But if you compare,
But we
it's
talk
that
about it.
yeah. But it's that thing. But if you compare what you're doing to what other people are doing, and if you look at your
Mm-hmm.
background, so what you have a degree in, what skills you have, so it's just about just looking out and comparing and just seeing, wait, they're doing this, they're getting promoted, why am I
Mm-hmm.
not getting promoted, or what's going
Right.
on here, or so I think that's the point to hit home.
Right. Is like just understanding, we have to talk about it. We have to expose this, and we know the wage gap exists, but like how big it is obviously something that doesn't get talked about enough. And the real reason why women aren't asking for it doesn't get talked about enough. There aren't really a lot of studies, about that. So
No.
it's like just figuring it out, like the psychology, and just going back to like how we're bred, and then, and asking questions and getting curious.
Yep.
So that was another episode of She's a STEM, about the gender wage gap.
Wait.
Go and get curious about your
Yep.
money.
And that's all for today. Until next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.